I'm Fabrizio Lelli. I'm the director of the Jewish Museum in Lecce. I'm here talking to you from my home. You know fairly well, wherever you are, that people are obliged to stay home in these very hard times. And this is the reason why, with the staff of the Jewish Museum, we have decided to launch this project of talking to you from home and creating a sort of live streaming Facebook dialogues, let's call them this way if it's possible, in which to discuss, to debate some themes, some topics that are commonly tackled in our activities at the museum. Um, Generally, we like to do that in person at the museum, but now everything's closed, and we only have the opportunity of the social network to broadcast this activity and to deal with these topics online. So my idea is that of introducing the project, and what I would like from you is to have a feedback, to know from you what your thoughts are and suggestions, notes, whatever you have in mind about the possibility of developing, enhancing these dialogues. Um, as a first attempt, I would like to introduce the activity of the museums, the activity that we would have liked to develop in the museum itself, but we have been obliged to postpone to a period that we still don't know, because we don't know when all this will be over, and if there will be a possibility to start our new initiatives from summer or from the fall. We would like to present a very important exhibition. We would have liked to start in May, the mid May possibly, but of course this is no longer possible. This exhibition centers on a very important theme of our research. As you might know, the museum centers its research on the idea of memory, on everything connected to memory. Not only memory of Judaism in Salento and the Apulian area, but memory of dialogues, of encounters, social, intellectual, cultural encounters in the past and in the present. So the exhibition we had in mind, and we would like to install and organize at the museum as soon as possible, relates to a very important subject that we are very fond of, the so-called Aliyah period, the period of the illegal immigration to Israel, to the land of Israel, immediately after World War II. As you might know, in that period, many Jewish refugees came from all over Europe to Italy and were hosted in temporary camps called transit camps. And in those temporary lodgings, people could stay and enjoy hospitality, which depended on welfare association, charity institutions, especially Americans, and they could also take advantage of that period to study Hebrew, for instance, because most of those people had in mind the project of all those people was that of sailing, leaving for the land of Israel as soon as possible. And so the exhibition we would like to present at our museum is organized by the Eretz Israel Museum along with the Museum of the Shoah in Rome, and centers upon the presence of Jewish refugees all over Italy after World War II. It mostly consists of black and white, very beautiful pictures, and which document the period of these transit camps. We also have in mind to organize another exhibition, which we would like to open in June, if possible. And this exhibition is a personal exhibition of an artist, of a young artist from Turin. His name is Federico Caputo, and he will be one of our guests in these Facebook streamings in the following days. Federico is a very talented young Italian artist who mostly deals with textiles. He creates his own textiles by weaving wool threads, and he embroiders or creates drawings on those textiles. And in this special case, he will present new creations, relatively new ones, related to the Jewish world. Either Jewish symbols, very common Jewish symbols, or Hebrew words, important phrases, idioms that are very common in the Hebrew language. And my idea was that of presenting the exhibit of these newly made, brand new made textiles along with traditional Jewish textiles. You might be knowledgeable that the art of weaving is a very old traditional art in the Jewish society. It's documented from biblical times on, and you might know also that especially in the Salento area, in all of southern Italian area, Jewish communities were mostly dealing with textile makings activities like weaving, like dyeing textiles, dyeing fabrics. And they were the only, in some historical periods at least, they were the only ones who were entitled to create silk or precious fabrics. And that's the reason why throughout centuries the Jewish communities, especially in Italy, underwent a series of very important changes in textile activities that made it possible for them to be related to the non-Jewish environment. And this is one of the aspects that we would like to deal with in our exhibition. We will interview curators of Jewish museums in Italy and all over the world who are familiar with this topic, and we will ask them what they think about this important dialogue of artists in textile fabrics, and we'll show some examples online, and we hope to have some real fabrics in our exhibit on display. Another activity that we are about to finish in this time of the year is the translation, the English translation of our guide, travel guide to Jewish Salento. We already published the Italian version, which focuses on the two museums, Jewish museums in Salento, the one in Lecce and the other one in Santa Maria al Bagno. So two of the itineraries included in the guide relate to those two museums. And then we have 5 more itineraries which allow visitors from all over the world to discover traces, remains of Jewish life in present-day Salento. We are now finishing the revision of the Italian guide into English, of course, and we are ready to have it published, and we hope it will come out soon as possible, in order to have it ready for the beginning of the summer time, when we hope we'll have foreigners, people visiting from all over the world, as it used to be last year. Of course, this year we have to follow the present-day restrictions imposed on the governments, and we know that many flights have been cancelled and there's no possibility for people to travel around, but we are confident and positive that this situation again will be over in the next few months, and by the summer we might have new waves of tourists visiting our country. So as I was saying before, one of our goals is that of presenting materials from the Jewish world in our conferences, in our conversations, and to talk with people from all over the world and to interview them on any possible subject related not only to the Jewish world, as said, but also to contacts between cultures. So we'll be dealing with music, we'll be dealing with theater, we'll be dealing with many subjects like literature, and we'll be offering you advice and tips on possible readings, bibliography, and whatever you are familiar with or not yet familiar with, and you would like to know more or know better. So this is the reason why in this very first dialogue, I would like to ask you first and foremost, what are your suggestions? What are your thoughts? And you can write them, and we'll evaluate them, and we'll answer your questions online or as soon as possible. And we would like your feedback again. We would like to know more about you, because you are our public, our audience, and we hope by doing this we are giving a service, help for making things happen, and creating a network of families or people housebound in these days that are able to connect also from distant places. I'm waiting for your questions, and I'd like to know more from you. In the meantime, I would like to tell you that from tomorrow on, all the social networks related to the museums will display a list of the next day conversations on the next day of the next day dialogues, and I hope you'll be interested in most of them, in all of them, in some of them, and you'll be connected, and you'll be taking advantage of this new adventure that we are offering. Myself with the whole staff of the museum, who's always available and will answer your questions as soon as possible. I see that there is a question. You, Chiara, would like to have a virtual view of the places? You mean the places where Jews were in Salento, in the Salento area? Besides Lecce, you should certainly visit Gallipoli, Otranto, Santa Maria al Bagno, where the Jewish Museum of Welcome and Memory is located. And a little bit further away, you should visit Brindisi with its beautiful archaeological museum, and Taranto with its surprisingly beautiful archaeological museum. Both cities, Brindisi and Taranto, have the only extant evidence of Jewish funerary tombstones preserved to our day. Another interesting piece of evidence is preserved in the Otranto Museum of Holy Art. The Otranto Museum has the most ancient funerary tombstone that arrived to our days. And if you write to the WhatsApp number of the museum, I'll be pleased to send you a map with the sites, with all of the sites in Salento. I see that there are also questions related to the Jewish presence in Lecce. The Jewish presence in Lecce is very old. It dates to the period of the first diaspora, the second diaspora, the first diaspora of the the first important diaspora of the Roman times, during and after the destruction of the Second Temple of Jerusalem, around the year 70 CE. According to tradition, many members of the most illustrious Jewish families from the priestly environment in Jerusalem were obliged to leave the country, the land of Israel, and were forced to sail for Rome, the Italian peninsula. And since most of them landed in the seaport of Brindisi, they started dwelling in the area soon after, and they started creating very important communities that became bigger and bigger throughout time, and became some of the most important Jewish communities in the Roman imperial times. There's an evidence of their stay and their importance they had in trading between different areas of the Mediterranean throughout the Middle Ages. And the Jewish presence in the area of Lecce kept being important until the end of the 15th, early 16th century, when, following the edicts of expulsion from Spain and the subsequent conquest of southern Italian peninsula by the Spanish kingdom, Jews were obliged either to convert or to leave the country. and most of them decided to go to other areas of the Mediterranean world. Some of them went to Venice, some of them went to present-day Greece or Turkey, where they established new communities, where they kept praying and following traditions that had been used for centuries in southern Italy and in the Apulia, in the Salento area particularly. So in order to track those communities back to to understand what the legacy of the Apulian community is, we have to find in Balkan communities or former Ottoman communities traces of the legacy of Apulian Judaism. And we find manuscripts, we find ritual traditions that were still kept at least until World War II, when most of those communities were destroyed by Nazi persecutions. And so nowadays it's very difficult to find evidence of a still existing Apulian legacy, but something can still be found in very distant communities, like for instance the communities of Corfu or the inheritors of the community of Corfu everywhere else in the world, like for instance in New York and the United States. So traces of Apulian communities can be everywhere, and it's one of the tasks of our museums, one of the goals of our museum to find those traces, those very scant traces scattered all around the world. But I invite you to follow us in the next few days in our new presentations and dialogues with many, many people who accepted our invitation and will call us and talk from their different places from all over the world. So thank you for your attention. Be in touch. Follow us on the web and be well, take care, and see you soon on the screens. Bye bye.